Welcome to MedAxiom HeartTalk, where thought leaders come together for one ultimate goal: to continually transform cardiovascular care for all. MedAxiom HeartTalk starts now.
Hi, I'm Melanie Lawson, host of MedAxiom HeartTalk, and today we are talking about how to optimize your program's value with strategies for both pre and post transaction. So joining us today we have Gary Herschman on the board of directors and a firm member of EBG Law. We have Justin Hand, managing director of Westcove Partners, and also Kevin Mair, Vice President, Care Transformation Services here at MedAxiom. So thank you three for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's dive right in. Justin, I want to start with you. So whether a practice is contemplating a sale, a merger, or a strategic partnership, what would you say is the most important thing to first consider?
Whether the practice or the program is genuinely ready to explore what their options are. That's from a financial perspective, a qualitative perspective internally with the dynamics of the shareholders, but also the number one thing is to really think about what are they looking for in a potential partner. So are they looking for a capital partner to help accelerate growth in new markets, new ancillary services? Are they looking for a partner to help recruit additional physicians within the organization? Or are they just looking for a partner to kind of join what everyone else seems to be doing in the cardiovascular space? So really setting the foundation and expectations of what they want, I think, is the first thing to be considering.
How do you kind of start that conversation, and who all should be involved in it?
I would usually investment bankers, or Gary will share his perspective from the legal side. Usually it starts because someone has approached a practice directly about having an interest in considering them joining the organization. And so usually it's prompted by an investor directly. And I think when that happens, at that point you should step back and decide, is this something we're really interested in considering? And so the folks that should be a part of those decisions starts with the shareholders themselves. So let's not make this decision for 2 of 10 shareholders or 5 of 15 shareholders. Let's actually bring everyone together and have a discussion. Is this something we're actually interested in at least considering at this point?
And maybe even having that conversation before you're approached, so you're ready, because at this point I feel like it's going to come around at some time or another.
I would be really surprised, and I think both Kevin and Gary would agree, that there isn't someone as a member of MedAxiom that has not been approached by someone.
Yeah. Gary, let me bring you into the conversation. So what typically do you see is the most challenging aspect that practices face, and then also what are some ways to overcome those challenges?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I think that the reason you're seeing all of this activity in consolidation and cardiologists being part of larger organizations is because they're facing a lot of challenges, more challenges each year over the last 5 years. And a lot of it's reimbursement reduction. It's also competition from hospitals that are employing a lot of cardiologists and other specialties, and other big players like Optum that employs 100,000 physicians around the country. And it used to be just primary care doctors. Now it's cardiologists and multiple other specialists too. So they're seeing this increased competition, these reimbursement declines, and everything's more expensive. You know, look at the inflation over the last few years. So costs are going up, reimbursement's going down, which means what the doctors take home in their pocket has gone down significantly in most places around the country. So I really think that they do think that being part of a larger organization could help with that. So even if you're a group of 15 or 25 cardiologists, being part of a group that's got a corporate infrastructure that works with 150 cardiologists and purchases malpractice insurance at a cut rate, but the same value of coverage, health insurance benefits, PET CTs, whatever they're buying in bulk for a larger organization. So there's economies of scale. There's a C-suite. There's a corporate infrastructure. Even some groups that might have a CEO and a CFO, what's underneath that. And a lot of groups don't even have top-level executives, but imagine having a C-suite for this large, $500 million, billion-dollar company helping you navigate these challenges. Those are the challenges, and that's what I'm seeing as driving this consolidation.
Any insights you think that practices can take away, even if they're not at the space where they're considering a transaction? What are some things they can grow and learn to do now? Kevin, I'll start with you.
Sure. I would say, it would be about getting your house in order. So really taking a look from an operations standpoint on what efficiencies you can put in place now, taking a look at your revenue cycle, really diving into your coding and taking a look, make sure that you're coding and billing appropriately. Also taking a look at expenses as well too. So really going over your balance sheet, your P&Ls, and seeing if there's any low-hanging fruit now before you reach the experts like Justin coming in and dealing with the evaluation standpoint. There's always room for improvement. So instead of waiting to that last final hour, doing the due diligence beforehand to be prepared so the transaction can be much smoother.
Mm-hmm. Justin, Gary, any thoughts on that?
I actually wanted to piggyback on maybe what Gary had said. There's a lot of headwinds in cardiovascular sector, but what's interesting is, despite those headwinds, you actually have the most interest that these practices, both private and hospital, actually do have alternatives to monetize the value of their equity for the first time, really ever, with the exception of potentially joining a hospital, which has always been in existence. So it is actually this really interesting time where, while we may see cardiologists a bit fearful, I think a lot of them have a lot of confidence as well, and that's well deserved. But I do think that there is a lot of fear in the marketplace, but yet fortunately you've got these investors that are saying we're a great solution to absolve some of those concerns, but also still keep you as a private business. And I think that is probably one of the perceptions that people have is, if I join a private equity platform or I am a platform for a new private equity firm, then I'm going to lose my ability to manage my business in an autonomous way. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, I actually think that what these private equity firms are offering is a solution to remain independent. And then for the case in the hospital-based programs, this is now an opportunity to really become independent, where you've been solely focused on, reliant on the hospital. And that typically comes with a lot of lack of transparency. And from our experience, and I'm sure both Kevin and Gary can say this, I think hospital-based groups under a PSA, they feel very comfortable when the PSA is signed, and then they start thinking about what's going to happen at the expiration of that PSA. And as more and more hospitals are stretched from a financial perspective, I think, to Gary's point, we're going to likely to see continued erosion on the income for these cardiologists, despite the fact that they're one of the biggest feeders to the balance of the specialties within the hospitals. So they're enormously valuable, and yet over time, I think the way they're valued from the hospitals are going to continue. We're going to go down.
With that said, you bring up a good point. You guys have been doing this for quite some time. What about valuations even a year ago? A lot has changed. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen from a valuation standpoint?
Well, not to be the bearer of bad news, but the valuations have come down a bit from where they were a year or a year and a half ago, I'd say, broadly speaking. But if you were an A asset in this marketplace, you are still seeing similar valuations to what we saw a year ago. We're just not seeing the same number of offers at that valuation, if that makes sense. So in a robust process in 2021 and 2022, we may be at a position where we have 6, 7, 8 offers that we would define as premium valuations. And in this environment, we may be seeing 3 or 4 of those offers at premium valuation, and the balance have kind of settled down a little bit lower. And I think that has resulted from a couple things. One, and we had said this, there's a benefit in being an early mover, as we call it, in the market. We're beyond the early mover timeframe now. But that doesn't mean that there aren't great partnerships and great values to be created, because even though valuations may have come down a bit from 2 years ago, if you were an organization joining a private equity platform today, you also have a lot more certainty of getting to a second change of control, because, to what Gary just said, a lot of these platforms have created a lot of infrastructure that you can support as a practice. And so your valuation may have come down a bit, or likely come down a bit today, but the opportunity for that second change of control, I think, is a lot more certain than it was a year ago or maybe 2 years ago.
And those are even more lucrative.
Exactly.
Do you think that's going to settle down, or do you think the trend is going to be lower valuations?
I think we've plateaued. I don't think we'll see them contract any further. And I don't think the reason for that is the audience here at MedAxiom is obviously predominantly hospital-based, and the balance being private. The remaining private groups out there in the marketplace are going to be viewed very favorably if they've created a good organization that's got management and good reputation, great physicians and providers in the group. And then the hospital-based groups, I think the larger ones are also going to be viewed as A assets, because those deals are really difficult to unwind. And so if you've got a big group, groups are going to focus on you rather than a smaller group in those hospitals.
All right, on that note, on a higher note, we'll leave that. Thank you all for joining us for this Heart Talk.
Thank you. Thank you.